Welcome to the MBU Football Coaches Show. I am Guy Danhoff, and of course, I'm joined with Coach B. Coach, I went up to my old stomping grounds in Deerfield, Illinois. I played football not too far from there, both in high school as well as junior college, as you know. And all things considered, it wasn't bad weather. Obviously windy. We talked about that. It did rain on Thursday and Friday before, and parts of the field were kind of in good shape, and some of it is just call it what it is. It's a little sloppy. So the Spartans have the lead at halftime, 14-6, but you end up losing the game, 21-14. I was wondering if you could kind of give us a quick recap, especially in the first half, because the Spartans were leading at that time, 14-6.
Yeah, I thought we played a pretty good first half. We came out of the gate pretty hot, especially offensively. Defensively, we unfortunately allowed them to drive right down on us, made a couple poor decisions, poor plays in that drive, and something that we've really talked about a lot is coming out of the gate and being sharp, and we've got to be much better in that sense. But give credit to Marcus Paddock. He made a great play on a third down, dropped him for a big loss, and they ended up missing a field goal, and then the offense went down in like 4 plays and scored. So everything was kind of following script. We were able to obviously tighten things up defensively, moved the ball right down the field, got the touchdown, and then I felt like after that defensively we were a lot better. We tightened it down in the first quarter, second quarter I believe, up until really the last couple seconds where we were kind of playing loose and expecting them to take some shots.
Right.
They didn't earn a first down. And offensively, we just missed too many opportunities. We scored, I think, with 1:53 left to go in the first half, and went up 14-6 at that
Correct.
time. And defensively, then we had 3 timeouts. We got very fortunate. They came out and threw the ball 3 times in their next possession. We went 3 and out, got the offense the ball back with 3 timeouts, and threw an interception. And went out, got another stop, used our timeouts, gave the offense another opportunity. And, those are just opportunities that we've got to take advantage of. Unfortunately, we were unable to do that and go into the half to 14-6. And those, to me, were very important possessions that we were unable to capitalize on, because I think on the first one, we were down around the 20-yard line, which with Odie's leg and everything,
Right.
that should be points, The wind played a little bit of effect. We missed 2 field goals, and those are points that you gotta put on the board. I don't care who you're playing.
Right. So with that, you started the game actually really nice at the 6 minutes into the game. I'm a big fan of this kind of play. You hit Demo out of the backfield on a 36-yard touchdown play, and you really use your backs a lot more than you ever had, especially in the passing game. I'll get to that in a little bit. But it was really great to see the work that Ronald Allen and Demo did, also in the passing game, because you saw some really good opportunities there. Now let's go to the third quarter. Now all of a sudden, and again I'm saying this because I was doing your live stream on the Twitter live stream updates, and here it is. I felt the Spartans, even in the third quarter, for the most part, was certainly doing a pretty good job. Okay. All right, solid job. I'll say it that way. And then the next thing you know, there is a 42-yard fumble recovery return by Trinity, and now all of a sudden the score is 14-12 because luckily you were able to disrupt their play and they missed a 2-point conversion. But in that third quarter, that we talk about turnovers because the Spartans had 4 total, 3 picks, and then that was a big one in that third quarter. And then there was no other scoring in the quarter. And then, of course, you get into the fourth quarter, and now they get up on a 35-yard pass play, kind of a bomb down the left hand, just a streak route down, hit it on the money. And now they go up 18-14. Again, they do miss the 2-point conversion because I forget which one of our linebackers got the interception.
Yeah, Xavier Jackson, the safety guy.
Yeah, he got the interception, so that was really good. And then at the end of the game, they tacked on 3 more. 21-14 is your game. So walk us through the second half, because to be honest, up until that fourth quarter, even in the third quarter, you're still leading 14-12.
Yeah, and defensively, that was another situation where we I think we gave up one drive for 11 yards, and they only had a couple first downs in that quarter. You know, the number of first downs that they got was really more in the fourth quarter and in the first quarter. It was one of those things where, you know, hindsight, you're always challenged of what do you do? You know, we won the coin toss and opted to defer.
Right.
So obviously it was our choice. We were kind of going back and forth, you know, do we take the wind at our backs in the fourth quarter? And the interesting thing is, with the wind at our back, it also meant that we would be in a scoring zone for us on the end of the field that had better footing than early on. And, you know, it's kind of a pick 'em at that point. You know, I think we felt like we could go out and take advantage early on with the good grass and the wind at our back, and, you know, build upon our lead, 14-6 at the time. And unfortunately, we were unable to do that. And then you give them good footing in the fourth quarter. I think that was a big piece of what they hit that long ball on Colin, and we brought a blitz on him on that play. And, you know, Colin was in pretty good position, but in every game you're going to have those plays where quarterback makes a good throw, receiver makes a good catch, and unfortunately, you know, that's really one of the only big plays that we gave up outside of, you know, and you mentioned the fumble recovery for a touchdown. You know, we really dropped assignment on their first touchdown, got that fixed on the sideline. We're much better defending that play throughout the rest of the game. They didn't hit us on it again, but unfortunately, it's just kind of a microcosm of our season, I guess, is, you know, defensively we have a few plays where we're not right, and we drop it, and it leads to points, touchdowns, not just points, but touchdowns. And then offensively we were unable to connect in the way that we needed to, and it's really frustrating. I know the guys are really frustrated about it, and you know, at the end of the day, we just got to continue to learn from it and keep working and getting better. But it was really a tale of two halves in that sense. You know, just the couple plays, and I really think that you mentioned the fumble, and, you know, obviously Cole is out there doing everything he can to help the team, and by no means is that an intentional play, but I think it's a psychological situation where I think as a team, unfortunately, we've seen that happen too many times this year, and it just becomes something that is here we go again, and mentally tough to overcome. I felt like mentally it was draining on everybody, offense, defense, and although we still had the lead, it definitely amped up the pressure on everybody, and we weren't sharp enough on either side of the ball moving forward.
Well, and also, to be honest, it was the first time their home crowd was actually in the game. Let's just call that what that was. They were pretty crickety. There was a lot you couldn't hear, and then all of a sudden that happens, and then the rest of that game, I mean, they were, you know, getting into, I believe it was their homecoming. There was a lot of noise and chatter going on at that time.
Yeah, and I mean, they didn't have a big crowd by any stretch of the imagination, but I think beyond the crowd, it gets the other team. You know, they're now energized. They're now, hey, this is a game we can win. And we talked about that going in, you know, that they've been through a tough stretch just like we are, and that this is a game that I think both sides look at and say, hey, you know, MBU, you know, we feel like we can go beat Trinity, and they feel the same way, and ultimately, you know, like I said, when that play happened, we talked a lot about mental toughness and being neutral, and we just were not able to overcome that on Saturday, and those things happen, you know, so they're just, again, we've got to eliminate those mistakes. You know, if you don't want to deal with the mental side of it, you got to eliminate the mistakes. But then at the same token, we have to still realize that the game is still in our hands. You know, that was something we talked about defensively. Is like, look, if we shut them out, we still win the game. But we were not sharp at that point.
Well, and then when you look at, again, the tail of the tape, I mean, you look at, you know, we had the ball about 9 minutes more than they did. So that helped. I mean, that's, of course, a lot of it is our ball control style offense. Look at total yards. They had 341 to our 307. Passing, they got all their yards basically on their passing with 346. Now, I believe this is a school record. I don't think this has ever happened. But kudos to your defense. I mean, you held them to a -5 yards rushing. So you would think just from that alone, you would think that would help, knowing that you didn't have to stack the box like you had to do against some of the teams we played. And then of course we had 222 yards passing, 85 yards rushing. First downs we had 18, they had 22. Third downs, this is a great stat. You held them to 2 for 13.
Yeah.
That's a check. I mean, you got to again, statistically, it's a great thing. To your point, it gets down to those couple plays. We had 18 we went 5 for 15. Fourth down, we were 1 and 4. They were 0 and 1. But here's the big stat, Coach. I want to see if what you want to comment on this. This kind of jumped out at me, talking about kind of the mistakes and maybe the mentality. They only had 3 penalties for 33 yards, and we had 7 penalties for 127 yards.
Yeah.
And you'd have to agree that a few of those were of the not so smart type.
Yeah, there's no doubt that's been obviously a point of emphasis, and looking at just some of the league stats the other day, I think we are second in the league in fewest yards per game penalty wise. It's like a perfect storm. We started, in fact, on the first drive, the first play of the game, we are not sharp, drop coverage, give up a big play, and then we get hit for a late hit out of bounds. Yeah. Those were tough. That's a play where we've got to be smarter. Again, it's really tough on the players because the field conditions, the white line on the sideline was pretty much wiped out due to footing.
Right.
We came over and hit him, and they called it, and that's all that matters. But we've got to be better. But those are tough plays. And then a couple plays later, we had a play where they called Raekwon Ramsey for a roughing the passer, and I'm not sure where that one came from, but it's what they called. And then later in the game, we get one where the official kind of slips in the mud and bumps into a coach and throws one on us on that too. So there was a lot of things that were just not going our way,
right.
And to your point, we've got to be smarter. We need to be more aware of where we are on the field, and that goes for coaches and players alike. And it just didn't go our way, but there's no doubt those penalties definitely hurt us. Right. They came at inopportune times largely, and that's something we've had a lot of emphasis on. But the rest of the stats, like you said, there's a lot of good stuff.
There is.
Third down conversions, all those things. I think the biggest disappointing stat was our overall rushing yards.
Right.
I feel like we felt like we'd be able to rush the ball a little bit better, and felt like that was a big key for us coming into the game. But there's no doubt that you play on that type of footing, and it goes both ways. But I can tell you they're a lot more used to playing on that.
Of course they are.
So, it's no excuse. We just gotta. We didn't play very well, and we got to be better.
So with that, let's talk about Cole Martin, because I know that we never mentioned his name last week. So I was wondering if you could share with Spartan fans, the decision as he got the start, if you could tell us a little bit about Cole, because when we taped our last week's show, there was no mention of Cole whatsoever.
Yeah, coming out of the Olivet game, Josh Munn was pretty banged up. He had caught a hit that he was not feeling the best, and we knew that early on in the week, and so because of that, we were giving Cole a few more reps and getting him ready just in case. And I think after Thursday's practice, talking to Josh, it was just something that he was in a lot of pain, and just medically we didn't think it was the right move to move forward and play him. We obviously took him along, and he was ready if needed, but we brought Cole in for a reason.
Right.
We needed him to step up, and so that's why he got that start. It was really a medical situation and a decision that we as a coaching staff along with Josh made together, and felt like it was the best thing for him, and I would stand by that. So he's feeling a lot better this week, should be ready to go, but like I told Cole after the game, is he's got to always, whether it's now or even before, always prepare as a starter, because you just never know.
Well, that's absolutely true, and he was 23 for 40 on the day, 222 yards. He did have a touchdown, And however, though, he did have 3 interceptions, and we've talked about that. Although one of the interceptions, the guy made an incredible play at a dive to get it. But the big thing there was the fumble. Now talk about your backs. Ronald Allen, 19 carries, 77 yards, had a touchdown, but he also had 5 receiving catches as well as 50 yards. Demo, he had on the receiving side, he had 2 catches for 44 yards. The big one was the 36-yarder for the touchdown. But this is, I think, the 3rd game in a row where both backs have scored a touchdown. Might even be 4th. But you've done a really nice job using that 1-2 punch throughout the game. And our top receiver was Gavin Cloud. And I was wondering if you could give us an update on what happened with one of the Spartans not being in the lineup.
Well, yeah, Tyler Ball was kind of a similar situation. It was a medical situation
Right.
going back to the Olivet game, and just making sure that he's cleared and good to go. Obviously, both those guys, Tyler and Josh, chomping at the bit to go out and play, but just medically, it was in their best interest to keep them out of that game, and that would have been honestly true regardless of who we played.
Right.
And so I thought Gavin did a nice job stepping up. He made some really nice plays. Drew Gillig stepped in and made a nice play on the first drive, and unfortunately we couldn't connect with him the rest of the game. You mentioned Ron and Demo. I mean, those are 2 guys that we know what they can give us. They're guys that you've got to get involved, and obviously when you're a 1-back offense, primarily there's just only so many carries to go around,
right.
And it's going to be who has the hot hand. But finding them different ways to get them both on the field, I think, is important, because you've got to really put your people and your personnel in a position to be successful. And I think the offensive staff has done a good job getting both those guys involved.
Well, I think the other exciting part is if you're a defense, you have to account for them now in the passing game in a huge way, or sometimes when you bring them in the chip, or sometimes to bring them in on the 0 blitz, right? Yeah. They're also good blockers. So it's really cool to see the development. And again, shout out to the running backs coach Kern for getting them ready to make them more complete backs, because I think that's certainly one of the strengths of what those 2 and some of the other backs have brought this season.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Even going way back to the beginning of the season, we felt that we were extremely deep at the running back position, and it was just going to be a matter of how could we utilize them and get them involved. And again, Coach Kern's done a great job of preparing them in regards to not just the running, but also the pass protection aspect of things, and also the receiving aspect. So there was a couple other times that they were open, and we just couldn't find them. But they are a dynamic duo back there.
Absolutely. So on the defensive side, a little interesting on the stats. Normally we have someone that has double digits tackles and 9 and 8 tackles. That wasn't the case this time. Your leading tackler was Sains with 6. However, he had 2 tackles for loss. Yeah. Those were big plays. Loggins, again, that's like the 3rd week in a row we mentioned him. He had 5 total tackles. And of course, JC, again, obviously always a top 3 in tackles, as he had 5. But Coach, what was really interesting was the amount of different defensive players that were involved in getting tackles. So I wanted to know if there's anything you guys did defensively different, or how that kind of accounts for, because normally it's usually King, Sains, Loggins, and Raycon Ramsey, right?
Yeah.
And now you've had, I didn't want to list them all because it was taking too much time, but you had a lot of Spartans that were helping out on the defense.
Yeah, the footing, I think, plays a role in that. It was really hard to get a lot of guys to the ball. And, if you were in an open field situation, that made it tough as well.
Right.
And, that was a big challenge for, I think, the secondary and the DBs as well, is, how tight do they play? That, you don't want to slip and fall and give up a deep ball. And but then all of a sudden you're playing so far off that they are able to just kind of hit underneath the shots on you. So, the footing, I think, really affected our corners and our secondary quite a bit. Obviously, one of the things JC does so well is he's got a nose for the ball and he's able to run and get to the ball from a safety position. But in those type of conditions, it was a lot harder to play at that 8 to 10 yards and get down and be involved. So, that it just meant other guys had to step up, and they did that. I thought Gio played a heck of a game.
He did, very much so.
And just continues to get better and better as a freshman.
All right, so that was your trip to Deerfield, Illinois. Now we're coming back home for our final 2 games. And the first one up will be Judson University, and they have the same record as the Spartans. They're also 3-6. The kickoff will be at 12 o'clock. And Coach, A couple of interesting things when you look at this. When you look at their 3 wins, they beat Madonna 41-19. Yep. They beat St. Ambrose 34-28 in overtime, and then recently they beat Roosevelt 30-20. And I wanted to get your thoughts on what you've seen on film because this is a newer program that we're going to play, and kind of what have you seen on film?
Well, I mean, I think they've got a lot of good athletes for being a first-year program, and
right.
Honestly, a program that has been very challenging for them to get off the field or get off the ground.
Right.
They were hoping to get it off the ground, and then obviously COVID hit, and I know that threw a wrench in some things. But they've got a lot of talent. They've got a quarterback and a couple wide receivers who can really go make plays, and defensively, they've got some guys who will run and hit as well. They do a nice job in kind of mixing up their scheme and on both sides of the ball. I think they seem to bring in a lot of ways kind of a specific package based on who they're playing against.
Right.
So that puts a lot of pressure on us as defensive coaches and our guys to get them ready for what they're going to see. But this is a good football team, and we've definitely got to be ready to go.
For a first-year program, they've put up a lot of points.
Yeah, that's probably where they're the most advanced.
Right.
With their quarterback and their receivers,
right.
They're able to put up some points. They've got 2 running backs that are pretty talented, and one of them we recruited here a couple years ago. He ended up going to Quincy and then has transferred
right.
to Judson. But offensively, they present some problems. They've got a receiver that's 6'3", 210 pounds, and he can go make plays. And so, again, something where we've talked about week in and week out is the secondary is going to have to show up and play. We got to figure out ways to get pressure on their quarterback, but they do a good job. They do a really good job. I think, going back to the 2 wins, the St. Ambrose and Roosevelt.
Right.
Those are big wins for them. But the one thing that I think stands out just watching that is they beat both those teams at home. Mm-hmm. They play on a grass field at a high school, and you can tell that, especially in the St. Ambrose game, the field conditions were very similar to what we dealt with
right.
in Trinity. And there's just no doubt that is a big equalizer in a sense when. You're used to playing on grass versus, not. And,
right.
and I think that's one thing that I can see in St. Ambrose. They were making some uncharacteristic mistakes.
Right.
I think Roosevelt was kind of doing the same thing. And there's probably also a little bit of the fact that both those teams probably overlooked them a little bit, being a first-year program. And you can't overlook this team. This is a really good football team.
Well, I was going to say, you can call it what you want. You knock off St. Ambrose, you knock off Roosevelt,
yeah.
You are going to get respect for a first-year program. So with that, yeah. Coach, as you're coming down to the end of the season, we've played 9 games in the books. We have 2 remaining. What are you telling your team at this stage with, knowing that if you were to win this weekend, you'll tie for the most wins in team history?
Well, I think just that there's still a lot to play for. There's still
right.
a lot for us to, go out with these next 2 games and finish on a high note.
Right.
And I think that's really important. Obviously, everybody's frustrated and going on this losing streak and just gotta get a little confidence. That's the bottom
right.
line and that's something I told them early this week is, don't doubt the fact that you're still a really good football team.
Right.
This is still an excellent team. And the other thing that we've talked about is everybody else that's an underclassman. We've got guys in this group that have really been here for 5 years now because mm-hmm. of the COVID season and getting an extra year. So, you got guys like KJ, Satcher, Marcus Paddock, JC. There's a number of guys in that group. I know I'm missing Cole Pedke, Raheem Hawkins, Jacob Triplett.
Right.
There's a number of guys that have put in a lot of time, and they all, and us as coaches, owe it to them to finish this season.
Right.
And to give it everything you got. Maximize your effort. You're counting down the days. There's nothing to hold back for. You're going to get a break. But for the remaining week and a half, give it everything you got. Go out and compete and get these 2 wins, finish on a high note, and then we can start looking towards where we go from here, spring ball and all that other stuff. But right now we've got to be laser focused on what's in front of us because there's still a lot to go.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. So we hope to see all of you here at Spartan Field for a noon kickoff as the Spartans will face the 3-6 first-year program of Judson University. Coach, I want to thank you, for breaking down the game and giving us, some good insights. And fans, we just want to thank you. Stay tuned this upcoming week because we're going to be doing some cool features on some of these seniors so you get to know them a little bit better. And yes, maybe even JC will tell you about his pregame music, and it's not what you think. And I know I've said it in the past, but I'm not going to tell you right now. You just have to wait when we go one-on-one with Jalen Cowley. So, Coach, any final word?
No, just really looking forward to this week. Be back at home. I think the guys are looking forward to it, and it'll be a great game. But we'll be ready and go out and give it our all and get our fourth win, and that'll be a big motivation, a big boost for us.
Absolutely, it's great to be right here at home at Spartan Field. We'll see you at noon, right here on the Spartan Digital Network.